Today I want to talk about how we feel we have to ask permission for everything that we need or want when we're involved in a narcissistic relationship. And also at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can start granting yourself that permission once and for all and live life on your terms. So if you really want to make some changes, stay to the end. So let's get started. If we own our own homes, as in own our homes way before the narcissist came into our lives, we still get in trouble for making decisions on something that belongs to us. If we decide, for example, that we want to change the vanity in the bathroom or open up a wall somewhere in our house, it's a problem for the narcissist, which in turn becomes a problem for us. If we do the job ourselves, we'll be told that we are incapable and that we're going to do it all wrong, or we're just going to make a mess, which will bother the narcissist. Meanwhile, most of them are slobs. At that point, you might opt for hiring a contractor, but that too is problematic for them because, hey, they don't want strangers in the place they're living in. Narcissists are untrustworthy, and so they naturally don't trust anyone else. They might tell you something in the guise of being worried about getting any of their things stolen, when in actuality, they're more worried about you meeting someone new. In their minds, they really believe that they own you. Let that sink in. So now, in this case, they'll take on the job themselves. And this is where the chaos becomes really chaotic, with more of your rights being removed. First of all, they may not really know what they're doing, but as far as they're concerned, they are masters at everything. So no one can do things better than them. And now that they've taken control, they see it as taking full control, because now they're above you. You'll have no say in the timing of the finished product. How dare you tell the master how to work? And now you're left with an unfinished area of what used to be your home. They bring in chaos. On top of that, you might have tools all over the place for months, and how dare you put them away? And I mentioned that one a lot because boy, did I go through that with him. You have no right to have your say on the matter. No right to complain, because how dare you? They are doing you a favor and you need to appreciate it. You have no permission to speak up, and you do not have permission to feel frustrated. I repeat, you do not have permission to feel frustrated. Think about that, because that will also get you in trouble. The permission that you are given is to smile, be grateful, and say thank you, and worship them. Maybe you want to go back to school, perhaps take some night classes where this does not concern them in any way. And right off the bat, they're questioning you like a child asking you if you think that this is a really good idea, and now you find yourself shrinking. You find yourself tripping over your words, trying to explain why it is that it's a good idea for you to go back to school, where the simple answer should have been, because I want to. End of story. But they'll do anything that they can to use guilt as a weapon. They'll make you feel bad for having to watch the kids twice a week when they're home to begin with. It's their kids. So now with all these questions coming at you, you're being bombarded, or the obvious unhappy look on their face. You can't stand up for yourself because you are in freeze response, because you're back in the past feeling like you're going to be a bad person if you speak up. And you're in freeze response because you don't know how you feel. You know you feel bad. You know you feel hurt. But you're still confused, cognitive dissonance, because you don't know how you feel beyond that. And that's important, because if you don't know how you feel, you won't be able to respond. When we don't know how we feel, we can't make proper decisions. When we don't know how we feel, we can't honor our values. When we don't know how we feel, we cannot respect ourselves. And in turn, others do not respect us back, because we're still in the programming. That's why we have to learn emotional literacy. Growing up, we were taught that saying no to anyone else makes them unhappy, and that's wrong, and that makes you bad. And being bad, we are rejected. When I was growing up, I took care of my toys like a proud man takes care of his tools. My sewing machines and my easy bake ovens were put back in their original boxes after using them and neatly tucked away in a closet at the end of each night when I was finished playing. However, when company came over, like cousins for example, it was a free-for-all on my toys no matter how harsh they were being with them. So if they broke anything, I was told to be nice and understanding that this was an accident. No, it wasn't. They were being rough with your toys, but you couldn't say anything. I had no permission to say no to using what was rightfully mine. However, if we were the visitors and wanted to play with cousins' toys, it was perfectly acceptable for them to say no, because I would be told that I needed to respect their wants. No permission to have a voice or rights of any kind. What do you think that learned belief does? Later on as a teenager, when I started part-time work babysitting, my mother would have her hand stretched out upon my arrival, waiting for me to hand over the money. It wasn't like they needed it either. And this continued until I finally moved out at the age of 18. I didn't have permission to want my own things because everyone else's wants were above mine, always. And although here you may not have had the same experience, you've had some commonality that you can all relate to regarding your wants and needs being disrespected, right? Some experience that you didn't matter or that you were undeserving somehow. Everyone was above you. Matter of fact, had you tried to speak up about how you felt, you would have been immediately shut down in one form or other. You would have been told or shown that you were bad, and that feeling of being told you're bad quickly turned into feelings of shame and guilt. You gotta cry for those times too. You gotta let that out. And today, nothing has changed. You still have someone in your life hovering over you and dominating your existence. You have someone in your life standing taller than you and parenting you. So here you are again below another with no permission to experience life on your terms. You've been brainwashed into believing that you didn't matter in this world, even though there is still a part of you that feels angry about it. That's cognitive dissonance. And so why do you think that is? Children may be small and may not have answers as to how the world works, but children feel. Children are intuitive, and they know when something isn't right. They may not know why, but they know when it isn't right, the same as you. They just can't identify it, the same as you. They also know that the parent or caregiver is way bigger than them, so they know better than to disobey. One thing that the child isn't yet capable of is deciphering their feelings that I just talked about. It's too complex for them. So every feeling they feel is summoned into one feeling, anger or hurt. Unfortunately, when the child isn't given permission to speak about their feelings, they never get to learn emotional intelligence, which bleeds into adulthood. You guys, this is so important. We still know that the behavior isn't right, but we're still sitting in the same position of feeling only a couple of emotions like bad, guilty, angry, or hurt. And that's just to sum up all the other feelings you have that cause you to be angry. Plus fear again, since the monsters are always bigger than us somehow. They're just as demanding as our caregivers. So they're just as scary. And so although we know that the behavior from them isn't right, we can't speak up because that would make us bad and unlovable. Plus it would get us punished. We're actually giving them permission to do that to us by staying. Ask yourself this. Is the narcissist's behavior towards you lovable when they're denying you of your wants and needs? In this frustration, even though you now know all of this, why is it that you as an adult are still paralyzed? Well, like I just mentioned, you were not taught how to process your emotions so that you could identify the problem today. Problems have to be identified before solving them, whether that's regarding science matters, mathematical matters, or you. When a person says they feel hurt or angry, there's so much more information beneath that emotion. Beneath anger could be fear. Beneath fear could be embarrassment. Beneath embarrassment could be shame, and or all of the above. It's only once we can identify our emotions that we can free ourselves. Let me give you an example of an experience a client of mine once had, which will remain nameless, of course, but was granted permission to share her story. She had a major issue with her sibling that affected many areas of her life. This older sibling never wanted her around growing up, although they were only a year apart in age. But no matter how hard she tried to be loved and accepted by her sister, nothing worked. Her sister was busy with her friends, and the only thing that mattered was her popularity. She never felt that she was enough around her, and she even stuttered in her presence as her lack of confidence was affected around her. And this continued well into adulthood. She still stuttered as an adult. She tripped over her words around her every time they got together. So what I did is, after hearing this, is I printed out a list of emotions that I got online, and I told her to go home, go down the list of emotions that she could identify with regarding how she felt in the experience she was having and had with her sibling. All she had felt prior was resentment and hurt. She couldn't get past it. I also told her to do this at a time where she felt that she could give herself enough space to do it and not just randomly check off a list like, yep. No, you want to feel it for a split second. The next morning, she sat outside in her garden with her coffee and paper in hand, and she started to mentally check off her list. She first connected to the feelings that she was aware of and then looked down the list. She agreed with the word frustrated, said yes to the word offended, could relate to the word rejected. And as she kept going, she realized how much emotions she was actually feeling instead of just anger or hurt, right? And she kept going. And finally, in her case, once she hit the word sad is where she came undone as the tears poured out of her like Niagara Falls. She cried the tears that needed to be cried, not the tears of anger, not the tears of resentment or hurt, not the tears of frustrations, but the tears of the exact emotion that kept her bound in all the other emotions. She said to me that once she was able to pinpoint this specific emotion and really feel it, that she felt the most honest that she had ever felt her entire life. She was freed up. And that was that. All the anger, hurt, resentment that she had lived with all of these years were gone. Matter of fact, that tripping over words around her sibling stopped, even though this sibling hadn't changed their ways. It was who she was, and that was that. Although she did change her attitude around her with being a little bit less snobby or judgy, as she described it. She said that she seemed to respect her more, which makes sense because once my client was able to name her emotion, she herself no longer saw herself as less than. And that's what happens when we can name our emotions. Dan Siegel has a book. It's not called Name It to Tame It, but I'll put the link, or I'll post it somewhere on the screen. But anyway, great book for anyone that's interested. Now, when it comes to naming your emotions regarding the narcissist in your life, you're going to have to rinse and repeat a few times, but it's so worth it. So go to Google and type in list of emotions and grab one that has a good amount of words, put in it, print it out, and carry it with you. Every time that the narcissist tries to control you, look at your list. Every time the narcissist gives you the silent treatment, go down the list and identify each emotion that you can relate to. And very important, this one, any small incident that makes you feel less than or upset with another, Look at your list. And that also goes for other people in your life. For example, if a friend is late and that irks you in some way, look at the list. The small things are so important. Any little feeling that leaves you discomfort, doesn't matter how small it is, go to your list. So what you're doing there is you're acknowledging the self, the very issue that caused you to become codependent in the first place, not being acknowledged. What starts to happen when you realize the depth of feelings that another is causing you to feel, you naturally start to give yourself permission to stand up for yourself. It'll literally be natural for you. No effort. Make the effort in watching your list of emotions, and the rest is take care of itself. A deep love for self starts to take place, and the self-hatred that you had dissipates. You start to see the truth and the depth of how you so don't deserve to be treated in this manner. You see it clearly. You begin to see you as an equal. I'm telling you, if you commit to this, you'll see the change for yourself. The guilt will fall away. You'll not only begin to think that you matter, but you'll feel that at your deepest core. And it doesn't take very long either to start seeing results. And like everything else, there's going to be times of feeling empowerment when you do this, where other times memories will come up and tears will need to be shed. But stick with it and you're going to see the shift. It's free, so what do you have to lose? These tears do have to come out. It's a cleansing. And I'd like to hear back from those who decide to do this. Let's encourage one another. So leave a comment down below after you've done it so that other victims of abuse can be inspired and apply it for themselves. We victims need to stick together, or rather survivors. I don't like saying the word victims. Okay, so that is it for today. And before you go, I would like to remind anyone who hasn't subscribed to please consider subscribing and clicking on that bell, as that helps me way more than you know. So thank you, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.